What is up, YouTube? Naseef here, aka Ill Chaotic Beats, bringing you another Ruby Sapphire deck profile. We are fresh off of the brand new first ever ban in Lorcana. They banned Hiram, they banned Fortisphere. The Fortisphere obviously doesn't affect us, although it does mean we don't have to prep as hard for the blue steel matchup, at least the control version of the deck. And the Hiram ban significantly disrupts our deck's potential for consistency, which is a really big deal considering we're going -1 a lot of the time to play these removal actions and these removal songs, whatever they may be, or even like characters. So we need a way to recover that hand size, and I think I've figured out an acceptable way to do so. So without too much rambling, let's get into the deck profile. I won't be going super in depth. I'm going to assume you know what most of these cards do, since this deck was tier 0 up until 24 hours ago. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to start with the characters. We're running 3 of the human Sisu. It's a necessary evil. It being uninkable is unfortunate, but being able to answer your Daisies, your Rapunzels, or alongside a Sapphire Coil, being able to answer 3 strength characters, very powerful. Comes out on turn 3 at the earliest for us. Sisu's fantastic. We have the potential for the shift line. Yeah, not much more to say there. We aren't running our best 4-drop in the game anymore, so we are on 4-gram Atala for consistency. Funny enough, this card feels less important in this version of the deck. We're also running 2 of the Scrooge McDuck. This is actually called Blue Donald. If you know, you know. So yeah, Blue Donald and Tala allow us to filter through our deck to get to those essential pieces to execute our game plan. Yeah, not much more to that. We're no longer playing How Far I'll Go in this version of the deck, so we're not concerned about being able to sing. So Tala, more often than not, is going to come down, find a card, and then challenge into their board next turn. Scrooge has the same utility, with the added bonus of occasionally being played for free and having that 4/4 stat line, which is real nice. Not much more to say about those. Consistency is key in card games, and having ways to be more consistent is always going to be beneficial. Losing Hiram means we do have to prioritize the Tala a little bit more, but I think the deck survives, especially with some of our other inclusions. Next up, we're on 3 Mauis. He's been around since set 1. He's great at answering locations. He's great, especially with Diablo coming back into the meta. We're going to need a 1-card answer to Cove. So Maui's good for that, and then he sticks around and either eats some removal or is going to challenge into their board next turn. Yeah, Maui's great. Most decks, when they see a Maui, are struggling to find an answer. We are on 2 Cusco. I was running Hideaway before the ban, but spoiler alert, we cut Maui Half Shark. So without Half Shark to recur the Hideaway, I think Cusco's the better option. The higher ink cost is a little bit of a drawback, but we get to high ink total pretty efficiently in this deck. And having a body that can also give our characters resist 1 if necessary is pretty cool. And he quests for 2. We also get to hit items with him, just like Hideaway. So it's Hideaway on a stick, basically. We're still on the 2 Medusa. We're still on Coil, so Medusa helps us deal with those big threats after we've shrunk them down a little bit. The half sharks and the maleficent dragons and stuff. Medusa's there to eat those. And your occasional stout-hearted Cindy. Yeah, there's a lot of there are a lot of problem cards that Ruby Sapphire can have issues answering, and Medusa is our answer to those. Now, we did cut Half Shark, but we're still running 3 of the Happy as a Clam Tamatoa. This card is even more important now that Hiram is gone. We don't get to do the busted combo of, okay, I'm going to play a Tamatoa this turn to set up my Hiram for next turn. Like, that was fine and dandy, but Ravensburger decided it wasn't fine nor dandy. So we're just using Tamatoa to recur our popsicles more often than not. But we're also on dime now, so when you quest, being able to free play that dime is a big deal. There is a version, so I'm on a hard 60 cards right now. This is a rough draft. I say rough draft, but like I was taking games with it last night in practice. But just understand that this is a card that could easily go up to 4 in the very near future. Next up, we have his big brother. This is our win condition. I'm not playing this card to the field usually until I have a dime down and I can activate it right away. Or if I have a second copy in hand, I might play one to retrieve a dime so that next turn I can play Tamatoa, quest to free play the dime, and activate it right away. The reason for the inclusion of this card is this is our swing in tempo. This card coming down makes it so that we're going from 3 lore to potentially like 14 lore in a single turn. And that tempo swing, it often proves too much for most decks to contend with. So where we used to kind of stall by playing a shark and daring our opponent to turn sideways, now instead of freezing their board with a shark, we're gonna present game ourselves and be like, hey, if you can't answer my board and you can't win next turn, it might be over. So yeah, that's Happy as a Clam that's So Shiny Tamatoa, the 8-drop from set 1. And we talked about it earlier, but of course we are on 3 of the Big Sisu, Empowered Sibling. Paired with Sapphire Coil, this is a one-sided board wipe. It's phenomenal. There's not much to say about it. It didn't need to hit for 5, it didn't need to quest for 3, but it does those things on top of being a very efficient board wipe. Alright, so that was it for our characters. Not a lot of characters as far as Lorcana goes, but we are a very action and item heavy deck, so we needed to make space. Fortunately, the characters that you never want to ink are already uninkable. So the only thing you really have to think about in terms of ink decisions is you never want to have to ink a second copy of Tamatoa because you might not see the third. Same with this Tamatoa. And if you're up against a deck that plays items, maybe you hang on to the Cusco for if they castle or something after a B prep. I don't know. What locations are y'all playing these days? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, the lines are pretty straightforward. There's a reason that here in South Florida we call this deck the Eating Crayons deck. Basically plays itself. Alright, let's get into the actions. First up, mentioned consistency earlier. What's more consistent than being able to look through the top 5 cards of your deck and grab whatever you need? Vision is phenomenal, especially since we're usually operating with a surplus of ink. So we can be at 9 ink, vision into a B prep, and then still play the B prep, which is absurd if you really think about it. Yeah, I don't think I would ever run less than 4 of this card. It's just too clutch. It gets us out of so many dicey situations, just being able to fish out exactly what we need, get the Pirate's Life when you need the Pirate's Life type thing. Like, Vision's phenomenal. Next up, we have Sail the Azurite Sea. I don't know if you noticed, but we are not running Tipo. Little spoiler for what else might be in the deck. But we are still running Sail because that turn 2 ramp is still one of the most powerful things in the game. And against more aggressive strategies, we don't always have the luxury of ramping on turn 3 like we would usually want to. The Sail replacing itself, it's great. I mean, you're still effectively losing the same amount of resources as you would with Tipo. But yeah, Sail's great. And in the late game, this can actually help you reach those extra coil triggers if you don't have other ways to do so. Yeah, Sail's a great card. Run 4 of them. Not much to it. Another card that you need 4 of no matter what, because the Burb is back, is the Brawl. You're just straight up answering Diablos with it. They can't snipe it with Ursula. And it hits whatever you shrunk with the coil, which is also real nice. Having like double coil out, inking and then double inking and then hitting something ginormous. Like you can shrink a Chernobog to 1 strength and then hit it with a Brawl or a baby Sisu. That's absurd. That is just not fair to anyone involved. All right. Moving on, we got 3 copies of A Pirate's Life. We do have to respect aggro decks that those are this deck's Achilles heel. If they can end the game before we start playing the game, there isn't much we can do about it. So we really do have to respect those decks that just turn sideways and try to gain as much lore as possible. We're not running the Shark to recur it, so timing the Pirate's Life is a lot more tricky in this version of the deck, but it's also not tricky because if they're gonna win, maybe you should use it. If they're not gonna win, maybe you don't need to use it. Pretty straightforward. I did have Let It Go in the last version of the deck, but it was a single copy to be recycled by Shark. Since we don't have that Let It Go, I'm up to a 3rd copy of Be Prepared. This is so that against decks like Chernodog, against decks like Blue Steel, if that still exists in some capacity, you're able to answer those big Tamatoas, those Chernobogs, those high strength threats that the removal in the deck is otherwise ill-equipped to assess. Yeah, Dark Hole is a good card. Who would have known? That was it for our actions. Let's move on to our item package. We do run a lot of items. This is a more item-centric build overall. Let's start with the star of the show. Survived the ban list. We got 4 popsicles. When you play this card, draw a card. Consistency is key. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Popsicle. Popsicle's great. We get it back with Tamatoa. With both Tamatoas, it's amazing. Next up, we're on 4 copies of everybody's favorite card, Sapphire Coil. Coil, when you ink, whenever you ink, you may give chosen character -2 strength this turn. This is how we shrink our opponent's cards in order to hit them with our targeted removal. Next up, we have really the most important card in the deck now, and that is Maurice's Workshop. So Workshop is our 1-to-1 replacement for Hiram. After the ban, I did what I'm sure most of us did. I pulled up Dreamboard and I clicked on Sapphire, I clicked on Ruby, and I typed in the word draw just to see what cards do we have that draw cards in these colors. Unfortunately, most cards in these colors don't actually allow you to go plus in hand. Workshop doesn't always allow you to go plus in hand, but if you combine it with a card like Popsicle, you're going crazy. Also, multiple workshops out will allow you to, for example, pay 2 for a coil and then pay 2 more to draw 2 cards. This is the most quote unquote broken way to draw cards in blue now that Hiram is gone. And while this might not be the optimal 60 for this card, it has proven to be pretty darn effective so far. For those that don't know, whenever you play another item, you may pay 1 ink to draw a card. That's what Workshop does. So ideally, we're going turn 1 pop, turn 2 either Sail or Vision, and turn 3 we want to play the Workshop. We want to play the Workshop before we play the Quill most of the time. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes we will. Let's talk about the next card. Sometimes we will have to play the Fishbone Quill right away so that we can ramp into the B prep, so we can ramp into the Sisu that we need to survive the aggressive onslaught. But in the slower matchups, or if our opponent didn't have as powerful of a start, we can afford to go Workshop into Quill, and that's going to allow us on turn 4 to immediately use the Workshop to draw a card when we play the Quill, and refill our hand so that we can start inking extra cards with Quill. Having ramp on every single turn achieves 2 things for us. One, we're on 17 uninkables in this deck, so we're able to filter out the uninkables and hit those high ink totals to play our big threats and to make crazy turns, crazy explosive turns with like big Tamatoa plus diamond stuff. But the other thing that Quill allows us to do is trigger our coil multiple times. So in previous iterations of the deck, running Shark, running How Far I'll Go, running Tipo, you kind of had to bend over backwards a little bit and make some uncomfortable plays in order to get these coil triggers to really achieve what they needed to achieve. I found myself playing Tipo on like turn 10 of a game just because I needed the coil. Now we just turn our Quill sideways and we get that same value. We're still losing 2 cards out of hand to achieve multiple coil triggers, but we always have the option available. We don't have to have the How Far I'll Go in hand. We can do it despite a Pete. It's really nice. It adds to the consistency, and it allows us to run the high uninkable count like we used to in the early days of Ruby Sapphire. So yeah, these 2 cards really are the biggest difference between the previous version of the deck and this current iteration. Also, cutting the Half Shark, cutting the Vitalisphere to make room for these is a big deal. So yeah, when I'm mulligan, I'm usually trying to look for these 2 cards plus Popsicle. Your turn 2 play isn't as important as having at least the Workshop. Workshop into Popsicle is really powerful. You can go turn 3 Workshop into turn 4, draw 2 off of Popsicle plus a Vision or something. Or if you ramped on 2, you get to go turn 3 Workshop, turn 4 Popsicle, draw 2 into Brawl or Baby Sisu. And that's really, really powerful because you're halting their tempo while still drawing cards. The last card of the deck, I'm sure y'all can guess, since we're on the item heavy version of the list, we got 2 Lucky Dimes. So I already talked about it in passing earlier, but we needed a way to kind of swing tempo now that we've lost the Shark plus Pirate's Life combo. Well, we didn't lose it, but we cut it. So this is our answer to decks that want to play the tempo game. If you're like ahead in any way, shape, or form, but you're not about to win the game, and I can play one of these, you have to respect this 6-drop Tamatoa, because I can follow it up by, well, granted, I have to have the ink total to allow for this, but if I'm at 10 ink I can go Quest Tamatoa, free play dime, play Tamatoa, or free play sorry. Play Tamatoa, get the dime from my drop if I had to discard it at some point. Or if it's in my hand. I'll get the dime, however way. Quest, +2 lore, play the dime. And at this point of the game, I probably have 7, 8, maybe 9 items in play. You gotta figure it's gonna be like 2 coils, at least 2 popsicles, at least a workshop, at least a quill. Factor in the dime, that's 7 already. So, say bare minimum we have 7 items. We're going 2 plus 8. So we're getting 10 lore in one turn with this combo. And then we're presenting lethal on an 8 strength body or an 8 willpower body. So this is the way you swing tempo. This is how you go from being the player that has to answer your opponent to being the one posing the problems that need to be answered. So yeah, without rambling too much more, that is the updated Ruby Sapphire Maurice's Workshop version, I guess. I hope you guys find success with it. Comment any changes or anything about the list you might not like. This is still very much a work in progress. We'll probably post an updated list after a couple weeks once we've had time. Probably before set champs, we'll get you an updated deck profile to really have an optimized version of the list. But I wanted to put this out there, wanted to get you guys playing some games with it so we can really put our minds together and figure out where this color combo is going to go in the future. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out Team Illuminati, best in the game. Catch y'all next time. Peace.